Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel and another Free Book Friday. So this week I'm going to be reviewing the book Him by Carey Heywood. If you're unfamiliar with Free Book Fridays, here's how they work. I go to Amazon and download a free Kindle version of a book that I think sounds interesting. Then I read it and I review it here on my BookTube channel. When I do that, I will give a paperback copy away for free to one winner. Normally on my Free Book Fridays, I wouldn't have the actual book in hand. I would have read it on my Kindle and waited to order it until I had a winner and a shipping address. However, as soon as I realized I was going to be reviewing this book, I got online to shop around and see where I could, maybe get a bargain. And I came across this signed version. I figured it would be just a little bit of an added bonus to whoever the random winner is. More details about that coming up. So Him was published in 2014 and it is book one of the Him and Her series. I believe after Him there are Her and Them. The series follows Sarah and Will. Now Sarah and Will were high school sweethearts and they were torn apart. And now they are reunited and have a chance to work things out. So for those romance fans out there, this book is all about the second chance romance trope. Now, while this book is part of a series, it's not necessary to read the whole series. Him is actually a successful standalone book. It's told from the perspective of Sarah, and Her is the same story told from this perspective of Will. I personally will not be continuing with the series. I was perfectly satisfied stopping at the end of Him. So here's the long and short of this book. Sarah and Will, like I said, were high school sweethearts. But then something devastating happened and Sarah ran away. At 18, she packed her bags and without saying anything to anybody, she took off to an uncle's house halfway across the country. Now, if you've watched some of my previous reviews, then you know about a few things that really drive me crazy when I'm reading a book. The first is a plot based on a misunderstanding. I can't stand that. The second would be characters that say one thing and do another, or think one thing and completely act as if they feel a different way entirely. Those are only two of the things that drive me crazy, but Him does both. So Sarah and Will break up, if you can call it that, because we learn that from Will's perspective, she just went away. They never really broke up. She just disappeared. And it was all because of a misunderstanding. And that's what happens a lot in second chance romances, because for some reason authors can't seem to come up with other reasons that two lovers would be torn apart other than they forgot to have a key conversation. And even though I first brought this up in my review video for In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware, which I will link down below, that book and that misunderstanding was completely forgivable compared to the one that happens in this book. At least in that book, the misunderstanding occurred when someone that the protagonist trusted very, very much gave her incorrect information. Okay, that's believable, because if you trust someone, you're more likely to believe something that they say. In Him, our protagonist is fed information from somebody that she knows cannot stand her. She knows that this person hates her guts. Why would she just believe anything this person has to say, especially when it references her personal relationship with Will? It doesn't make any sense. That's the first strike against Him. Secondly is the character inconsistency, and this is most obvious in Sarah. Now, this book is told entirely from her perspective, so who knows? Maybe the second book reveals that Will is just as inconsistent as Sarah is, but I'm not going to read it to find out. When the book opens, we immediately learn that Sarah has not been back to her hometown in 7 years. And if she's seen family, it's because they've come to see her. She absolutely refuses to set foot back in her hometown because she might run into the one person in the world that she hates more than anybody else, Will. She talks about how much she hates him. She talks about how much he hurt her. She talks about all of this stuff about how that chapter of her life is closed because of this horrible thing that he did. But at the same time, she dreams about him. She thinks about him. Like, obviously, it's been 7 years. She might be mad, but she still has feelings for him. Then, when she's called back to her hometown to participate in her brother's wedding, she boards a flight and Will's on the plane, which I'll talk about that in a minute. So when Will and Sarah realize that they're both there, they start a conversation and she talks about how great it is to see him and how good he smells. And she talks to him like he's her long lost best friend. This girl, this character, Sarah, was just ranting and raving about her hatred, basically, of Will. And now they're chit chatting on a plane. I don't understand. See, character inconsistencies like that. I don't understand how that happens. I guess maybe that's my fault and I can't make that intuitive leap. But those two things, especially, they juxtapositioned so close to each other. Like, one scene she hates him, next scene she's chatty Kathy with him. Like, it. The best example I can give of character inconsistency is so blatant and like smacked over the head, it's crazy. So we know that there's been some misunderstanding. As experienced romance readers, we just know that that's where this is going. So I'm not spoiling this for you. We get to a point in the book where Sarah is basically informing the reader of the thing that Will did to cause her to run away. And as the reader, we have no choice but to believe her and wait for the confrontation to happen. When the confrontation happens and Will guesses that very thing, when that very thing is revealed as the reason that she ran away, Sarah says, "Well, yes, that upset me, but that's not why I ran away." What? Because you kind of just told all of us that's why you ran away. You kind of just made every reader of this book believe that that was the problem. And now Will's trying to make up for that, and you're saying, well, that's nice, but that's not why I'm mad. So let's go back to that plane ride. Sarah lives across the country. She lives on the opposite side of the United States from her hometown. And Will lives in this hometown. She gets on the plane and he's on it. This is not only confusing, but it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Okay, so the author explains it away with some like ridiculous, he was at an awards show or he was at a photography awards event in Sarah's city. And that's why he's on the plane back to the hometown with Sarah. So basically, once I'm finished with the book, I'm thinking back like, Jesus, couldn't these people just have had this conversation on the plane and I wouldn't have had to read all the rest of this shit? It could have gone something like this. Hey, Sarah, fancy meeting you here. How are you? Will, what a surprise. I'm doing well. How are you? Not too bad. I was at some bullshit photography awards. That's why I'm in this random city and happened to run into you. Wow, that's really exciting. So what's been going on with you? Not much. You know, Will, there's something we should probably talk about. There is. What is that? Let's discuss what you did to me 7 years ago when we were 18 years old and going to proms. And then she explains to him what he did, but I can't show you that part because it would spoil the book for you. And then Will says, I never did that. Where on earth did you hear that? Well, that skeezy girl that hates me told me all about it. Well, you're a dumbass if you believed anything she said. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. We could have been together this whole time. And then the end. There's no need for more book. So the entire time that Will and Sarah are on this plane together making pleasantries, Will completely neglects to mention that he's basically part of her family now. When they get off this plane, he walks into her childhood home, starts taking food out of the refrigerator and stuffing it in his face like it's no big deal. And she's like, what in the hell are you doing? And he's like, oh, this is my house now. That's my mother now. That's my brother now. You didn't want them, right? I'm just kidding. It didn't quite go like that. But that's... And of course, for 7 years, nobody's bothered to utter Will's name and mention that he's an adopted member of the family now. Nobody talks to each other anymore. I have one more problem about this book. One more mentionable problem with this book. So the book alternates, right? The chapters go from past, where we're learning about how Will and Sarah originally got together in their budding romance, and it's all very sweet. And then it alternates with present chapters where we're learning about how Will and Sarah resolve their 7-year conflict. The chapters that are written in the present are full of mundane details. They're full of crap I didn't care about, crap I didn't want to read, crap that Carey Heywood wasted my time on. Basically, I know how many times Sarah took a shower when she was in her hometown, because Carey Heywood told me every time she did it. I know what Sarah was eating. I know where Sarah was sitting. I know every single moment of this chick's time spent in her hometown. Now, here's the thing. It might have seemed like valuable information to the author. To me, it seemed like the story that we cared about was in the past. Those chapters are the good stuff about this book. Those chapters are very sweet and tender and cute, and you are really rooting for Sarah and Will in those past chapters. The present ones are filled with junk so that this can be a full-length novel, and there's as many present chapters as there are past chapters so that the author can continue to do this clever rotating thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. So I know that I came down pretty hard on this book today. I was not a fan, admittedly. So if you'd like to find out if you agree with me, I will leave a link down below to Amazon where you can see if the Kindle version of this book is still being offered for free. And there's also a link to enter to win this signed paperback copy of him by Carey Heywood. And if you're a romance fan, or you're a fan of collecting signed editions, or you want to help support self-published authors, hey, I've already bought the book. I didn't like it. I don't want it. So somebody please enter this contest and take it off my hands. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for watching and for reading, and I will see you guys soon. That's just not what happened. I don't know.